Dear colleagues, welcome. This is AIPS Zoom panel with a very specific theme. Let's talk about Tokyo Olympics. The idea arose only last Friday during AIPS jury meeting for the AIPS annual award, and we thought it is a great idea, and obviously it is because more than 170 people are here with us at the moment, and it's rising. A lot of colleagues from the AIPS jury for more than 200 Olympics behind them in total, including IOC representative, our dear Lucia, are here. Of course, as usual, AIPS is offering translation through Interprefy application. It should be installed on your mobile phone and use it on your mobile phone. The first language is English, but it will be translated on French, Arabic, and Spanish, only on your mobile phone. So please use it as soon as you can. Let's start it. The Tokyo Olympic Games are a hot argument in these days. We have decided to organize an open discussion about the future of this important event with some colleagues who have participated in many editions of the game. The first one I'm calling to give introduction is AIPS President, Mr. Gianni Mello. Gianni, the floor is yours.
I think that the most important thing for me is to be with you now, to share also the experience that I have had. Unfortunately, in this group of my colleagues of the jury, I am the older, and with the older experience of Olympics. And I can tell you that it was important for me, I think, to speak about this matter immediately now, because there are a lot of rumors around the world, because coronavirus is changing completely our life. And it's changing also a lot of things in sport. So the best thing is to have the word and discuss together how we can challenge this situation. Because I think that in this moment it's necessary also to be a little bit optimist and to try to see the light at the end of the tunnel, especially for the young generation, because for us that we come from Jurassic Park is different, but for the young generation it's vital. And so I will begin to speak about the experience that I have had. Because my first Olympic in 1972 in Munich was the first in which there was a terrible event. The massacre, the Fedayeen entered in the village, and there was the beginning of one of the worst moments in the Olympic sport. And the day after, all the killing and everything, many people were telling, let's stop the Olympic, because it's better to stop the Olympic because there was this murder and we have to stop. But I think that was okay, because I believe every moment there to continue. Because in this case, if you stop, it means that in the future, any group of terrorists could stop everything in sport around the world. You have to continue. They were compelled and they did the right thing. But in that moment was rising the concern about the Olympics, because in 76, for example, in Innsbruck were organized the games because it was a kind of, they saved the games, because before in 72, Denver, that has won the bid, has decided not to organize the games. So we're a special edition of the games with organization very well done, but very basic. And in 1976 in Montreal, it was a kind of disaster, economic disaster for the city of Montreal, and everybody was complaining. And there was also the first boycott, the African boycott that nobody has spoken so much, but was the beginning of what happened in 1980, when in the day of the opening ceremony of Lake Placid Olympic, Winter Olympic, the USA government has told that they will go to boycott the games in Moscow. In that occasion, many people has told, okay, the Olympics are finished, are over, are dead. But thanks also to the work of we journalists that we have defended the right of the athlete to be together and to fight against the problem of politics, that Moscow was a great Olympic with a great success, and in some way, I must tell you that some country that before has never won medals or has never won many medals, in that occasion, thanks to the fact that USA and other top countries were not there, they have the possibility to have the gold, and this has improved the promotion of sport in that country. 4 years after, the same, because in Los Angeles was great games. I remember the light, everything. And for the first time, the athletes begin to go around with the flag as a symbol of reaction of what it happened. And I think that this was the key moment, because 80 and 84, the movement has begun to fly against all the odds of people that were telling the movement is finished. And that's begun to grow a lot. Now we are facing something completely new. Coronavirus is the enemy of everybody of us. There is no country that doesn't know what is coronavirus. It's the public enemy. And now we are coming to the Olympic in Tokyo that last year were moved to this year. Now, last year, in this period, in Japan, the situation was very easy. When it was become very bad for example, in my country, in Italy, because after we have known in March the lockdown, and for 3 months we were closed in the home. After it came a very nice summer, but with the summer we have forgotten some principle, and after we went back in the hell of the situation. Now Japan is in our situation. I understand when people are saying that 70% of the people can be against the game, or they have some doubts, or somebody is wanting to postpone a game. It's normal. It's the same feeling that we have had 1 year ago. And some feeling that sometimes we still have, because we are not still out. But now there is a problem. The people are thinking that they cannot support anymore. They cannot also accept anymore to be closed in the house, not to go. The restaurants are closed, the bar are closed, some shops are closed, the cinema are closed, the museum are closed. And luckily, in a part of the last spring in Italy and in other countries, football went back to the competition, even if without public. But at least was a kind of relief. Now many sports are coming back. For example, was a great example what has done NBA in USA with the bubble in Orlando. And I think that why this? Why all the government are trying to find the solution for sport? Because sport is something that touches all the generation, the interest of every generation, and also is the thing that can help us to see better the light at the end of the tunnel. What is the big danger if sport will collapse with the cancellation of the games? Because it's a collapse. Because for the money, not only for the IOC that can survive, but the problem of many federations, international federations, Olympic Committee, small federation that will have no money. And what can happen? A very bad situation maybe, because as in this normal society now is happening in many countries, including my country, the criminal organizations are taking a big position because they are buying, for example, bar, restaurants, companies, everything, and they're putting their hand on our society. And the same will happen in sport, because the criminal organization of the illegal betting and everything, they're only waiting this, because we know that there are some officials sometimes around the world that are not so strong in the way to stop this attitude, this bad attitude, and sometimes they prefer to survive even with something that is not so legit. But it is a problem. We have to face also this. And for this reason, I hope that will be possible to be in Tokyo this summer. I know that it's difficult, but if there is a country that can organize a big bubble for the Olympic Games, it's Japan, because we know their skill in organization. And for this reason, I hope that at the end, all the pessimism can vanish after, when people will understand that what we are doing is not because to save only some champion, but we are saving an ideal for the next generation, but also for us, the old generation, because coronavirus is affecting everybody of us. It's not something that I have and you don't have. You are not luckier than me or other people that are in this office today working to discuss freely about this matter all together. Because the fact that this virus has helped us also to be closer, even in video, after I hope that will be also help us to be closer in person and to be able to discuss about all the matter. But especially, don't underestimate the fact that some bad guys can try to put their hand on sport. Because already now, during the lockdown, I'm afraid that this phenomenon, this bad phenomenon is growing because there is less control, because there is less press around that can control. And this is important because in some way, we are the people that help to have the control of sport that must be fair. And also in the future, we will have to discuss about how we can be back exactly as before, how we can go to the sources, because we know that now we have to use the computer to reach the people or the telephone. But in the future, we have to prepare for a future that will be very similar to the past, even if it will be very different. But we have to open our heart. We have to open also our kind of experience in profession to find the right solution. We must be very concrete. We must talk. We must defend also our right and the right of independence of press, because even independence of press is in danger with the coronavirus, because it's affecting everything. And I hope with my bad English that I have explained my concept. Do you think that I was clear enough? You can say yes with the end. It's okay?
It's okay, Gianni. It's okay, Gianni.
Okay. So now, dear Yura, let me introduce Lucia Montanarella, that is with us as head of the press operation of the IOC, that she is working very hard. She came in the moment, the most difficult moment with the Olympic in Tokyo and with the Olympic in 6 months after in Beijing. I think that she has very good things to tell to us, to know what we will face very soon. Lucia, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gianni. Thank you very much. And good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good night to everyone who took the time to get online today. It's exactly true that this idea came out last Friday. So out of the blue in the morning, both my boss, Christophe Duby, and I received a call from Gianni and said, what if on Tuesday we brainstormed together about the games? And both Christophe and I were very happy in that moment to accept this invitation, because it really gives us an opportunity to talk a bit more about what we are doing for the games in July. One message that I think should be very clear with us, and obviously we all live in the same world and we all immersed in news and we all read the newspapers. But one thing I want to tell you is that from the 24th of March, when the day of the postponement within the IOC, there's never been a moment that we've been looking at the Tokyo Games as a project that if there will happen. It's always been how we will make it happen. From the 25th of March, we've been working to make sure that we could stage these games. And what's happened, and I'll give you a little bit of background, is that this project that has been built within the IOC, and I'm sure that my colleagues in the IOC will not be upset with me if I share a little bit of, we gave it a nickname, and the nickname of the project was Project Crystal, because we felt at that point that we really need a crystal ball to try and understand how the world would be in 50 months' time. So what we did, we draw 4 scenarios on how the games can happen. And these 4 scenarios were taking into consideration that the world pandemic will still be there. There will be classes around the world, but traveling will be pretty much resumed. There was another scenario that said clusters will be in different countries and traveling will still be difficult. There's another scenario a bit more optimistic about the pandemic having disappeared. And we concentrate on one scenario that is actually pretty much the scenario we're in now. So we concentrated on the fact that we will face games where the coronavirus pandemic will still be amongst us. However, it will be contained in some areas of the world, and the traveling will have resumed, however, in reduced capacity or with some limitations. And pretty much we are in that scenario right now. And that's the scenario that we picked and we're working on. As President Bach keeps saying, and I can confirm being internally at the IOC, there's no plan B. This is what we've been working. So the key point is that we have been working on these scenarios on how to make the games happen, and never ever if the games happen. And I think that's really important for you to understand in which sort of mindset we've been working with our Japanese friends in Tokyo 2020. So a number of working groups and commissions and the famous 3-party council, which includes obviously the Japanese authorities and Tokyo 2020 and the IOC. There's a big role also assumed by the World Health Organization that is advising the IOC and is very close to the project in Tokyo. So that's just to provide a little bit of background, and obviously, as maybe it was mentioned before, there's a big thing that changed from a year ago. So people are saying we are in the same situation as we were in March, and now in March 2020, and I would say we are not. We are in a situation where sports is happening, sports events are taking place, the athletes are training, the athletes are competing. The athletes are getting qualified. And so we are not in the same situation because these things are happening, and a lot of sports across the world have shown that sports events can happen. Having said that, we are fully aware that we have a huge challenge. The huge challenge is that while Gianni says Japan will be able to create a big Olympic bubble, when you look at the details, reality is that creating that bubble is not as easy as creating a bubble for one sport and one event with just a few hundred athletes. So in Japan, Tokyo 2020 is working really, really hard. I mean, we have daily calls, and we've exchanged an enormous amount of meetings and information and documents and spreadsheets and scenarios, and there's lots of new policies. What is clear when it comes to media is that these games are going to be different, and it's not going to be a piece of cake to cover these games. And this, I think, is something that we need all of us to take into consideration. There are going to be restrictions. There's going to be restrictions that we've never had in place, which are not restrictions because obviously nobody wants to limit the movements of the media, but they are only related to the fact that we are totally committed to run really safe and safe games for everyone, from the people of Japan, for the athletes, for the media, for every single stakeholder. So the restrictions are mostly in the movement, meaning that I'm sure that a lot of you are aware because it's something that was already announced at the last press briefing last November. There's been a redesigning of all the venues and all the press areas in the venues, and all the press areas obviously have been adjusted to what are the requirements for physical distancing that are in place from the Japanese authorities. And this is the physical distancing is requires to be at all time a distance of 2 meters from the athletes and between the athletes, and 1 meter from the rest of the stakeholders. By applying those physical distancing in all the press areas, we've lost obviously an enormous amount of positions, whether they are mixed on position, whether there are seats in the venue media centers, whether there are seats in the press tribunes, and more importantly, in the photo positions. So the capacities of the press areas for Tokyo 2020 are extremely reduced, and they will lead to a need for press to announce themselves before they go to the venue, because only the amount of people according to the capacity will be allowed in. And obviously this will have an impact because we are all used to live the games in a way where we decide sometimes also on the day on which venue we are going to and which competition we're going to watch. And this obviously will not be the case for the Tokyo Games. There's all of these guidelines will be contained in what is called a playbook that will be released for the press on February 4th. And this playbook will contain all of the guidelines for accredited press once they confirm that they want to travel to Tokyo. They will cover all the requirements before they leave for Tokyo, in entry to Japan, the first 14 days in Tokyo and how these days will be shaped and what are the requirements in terms of testing and in terms of movement, as well as access to the venues. So this is pretty much in a very summarized way what we've been doing, what we're still doing, and as I said, there's still a lot of details that will have to be defined. Obviously, Gianni was talking about sources, and the sources at the Olympic Games. I mean, the key source is obviously the athletes, and what we've been trying to do is to try and preserve as much as possible access to the athletes and access to the sources. But obviously, I don't want to depict the picture better than it is. Access to the athletes at the Tokyo Games will be extremely difficult, and not because there are restrictions, but because we know that also the NOCs will be very conservative in allowing the athletes getting out of the bubble. The real bubble will be created at the Olympic Village, and the athletes will be living in a bubble. Where it's becoming difficult for the media to be somehow interacting with the bubble is because, as you know, the media accommodation in Tokyo is in multiple hotels, and a lot of press is also staying in non-official hotels. And so it's practically impossible to create a bubble that includes the media as well. And so that will prevent a lot of direct access to the athletes, because the NOCs are not keen in having no people from outside the bubble accessing the athletes. However, for the main press center, we've created a dedicated path for the athletes not to mix with any other individuals. So we are doing whatever we can to make sure that whoever travels to Tokyo will have the way to cover the games. But I really want to be very clear that it's going to be very different. It is going to be extremely different, and obviously we are still finalizing those plans. But yeah, I think this is pretty much the background and the picture where we are. The other important point is that the release of the playbook is on the 4th of February, and on the 10th of February, there is an online briefing held by the IOC and Tokyo 2020 on the playbook for press. And the invitation will be sent by Tokyo 2020 to all the accredited press. So if you are a member of the accredited press, you will receive an invite by Tokyo 2020 in the next days or so.
Thank you, Lucia.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes, is that is okay, or you have something more to say?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for this. I don't need to have a crystal ball to know that most of these people, and now we are 259, will have questions for you, so stay with us, please. And now I'm giving the floor to Shinzuke Kobayashi, not only my colleague and my friend, but he's also leads Kyoto coverage of the 2020 Tokyo Games and is managing director of Olympic and Paralympic News Office. Shinzuke, the floor is yours. How do you prepare in Japan for all of this?
Thank you. Thank you, and hi, everybody. For someone who live and work in Tokyo, I would like to explain the situation here in Tokyo. Well, the situation is not very bright, and there is a lot of pessimism around the country. I had a conversation with Johnny earlier, and the daily infection in Tokyo, I mean in Japan, is around 5,000 to maximum 7,000, and the daily death is around 100 or less. And compared to Europe or the United States, it's nothing, he says, but now we are having this increased number coming every day. And so a lot of pessimism is around the country. The state of emergency was declared on January 8th for Tokyo and surrounding prefectures, and it was expanded to a total 11 prefectures a few days later. This declaration is supposed to be lifted on 7th of February, but many experts say it is unlikely, and it'll be extended, they say. The situation with the vaccines, the government is now in the process of approving the vaccines such as made by Pfizer or Moderna and so on. And earliest date they set is February 15th that they will finally approve one of the vaccines. And then they plan to vaccinate the elderly people and the medical workers first, and hope to do it in 3 months. And if things go smoothly, the government is hoping to secure enough number of vaccines for everybody who wants to take the shot by June. So it's unlikely that the vaccination will complete before the Olympics, but it is moving at least. And the public support is unfortunately plunging with the Olympics. A recent poll, which was made around 10th of January, says that 44.8% want the game to be postponed again, and 35.3% asks for cancellation, and only 14.1% hope for the game to be held as scheduled in this summer. The previous poll was taken place last December. That time there were 31.6% who wanted the games to be held as planned, while the postponement was desired by 32.2%, and the cancellation was 29%. There was a gymnastic international tournament held in November. It was a kind of a test case for making a bubble and bringing the foreign athletes. And it was successful, and the event was conducted without any infection of athletes. And in the end, the Kohei Uchimura, sort of a legendary Japanese gymnast, won many gold medals in the Olympics in the past. He stood on the podium and made a speech asking for public support for holding the Olympics. And he said, please don't think we can't do it, but think how we can do it. It was a very touching speech, and I thought it was a very good speech made by the side of athletes, and I expected and I hoped many athletes to go along with him. But in reality, at least on the social media, there was a lot of backlash, very negative comments to him saying it's very selfish or it's not a time like that. So general atmosphere is not very good. But as you see, there is a big turn from December to January that same thing can happen to go different way. If things get better, I think people's notion or the sentiment will change quickly. At least since last day before yesterday, the number of infection dropped and decreased very much, and there's a bit of a relief. And today it went up again, but still, hopefully, this will continue. And if that happens, I think things can turn around. And in my view, the crunch time will be March, I think, because the rescheduled test event will begin in March. The first event is FINA Artistic Swimming Olympic qualification taking place from 4th of March. If this can be held as planned and go well, I think it will be a big boost. Also, a torch relay will begin on the 25th of March. I think this is kind of a time when a lot of people start to think seriously about, the public at least, that will have their eyes on the Olympics. And recalling last year, it was 2 days before the torch relay started that the postponement was decided on the 24th of March. So some people say, we kind of are seeing a repetition of last year, but hopefully this declaration of a state of emergency will be lifted by before this March, and the test event goes and the torch relay begins. And then I think things will be on track. That's what I'm hoping at the moment. That's all from me now. Thank you.
Thank you, Shinsuke. If there will be any questions, I'm sure that you will answer on to them. I would just like to remind you that we are still talking about Tokyo Olympics, and we as AIPS would like to see your faces. If you have possibility to turn on your cameras, we would like to see your faces. And also near your name, we would like to see the country that you are from. Of course, it is a little bit strange to see Anthony Edgar is from China, or once Amalvi from Hong Kong, but okay, we know that it is okay, and they are there in the moment. But we would like to see all your names with the countries that you are from, because we just want to be friendly with you, and we want to know from where are you from. And I surely know where Jack Zhu is from. He is from China, and Jack Zhu is a man who knew Olympic movement from 1992, and China is very important because 6 months after Tokyo, China should be a host of the Winter Olympics. Jack, how are you preparing?
Hi, hello everyone. Good morning and good evening. Thank you very much for giving me the chance to talk here about Tokyo 2020, and also I will take the opportunity to say something about our preparation for the Beijing Winter Games 6 months right after Tokyo. Everybody knows that in last week, in the first 3 days, our president had an inspection tour of Beijing Winter Games. He took 2 days to check the preparation facilities, everything in Beijing, Yanqing, and Zhangjiakou. and hosted a meeting on final day. That was on Wednesday. The inspection assured the world that Beijing will do its best to host successful Winter Olympic Games. Our president gave us 3 principles of Beijing Games, that is safety, simplicity, and excellence. Beijing had been doing its best to prepare for the games, although there was an epidemic in the very first several months of the last year. But after the epidemic was controlled all over China, Beijing, all the preparation work went smoothly for the Winter Games. All the new 12 competition venues was completed as scheduled last year, at the end of last year. All the non-competition venues will be completed this year, or will be done on time. Although the test events cannot be held because of the COVID virus all over the world, but Beijing will host test events to test the facilities, test the team, test the coordination work, test everything. And it has been approved by the LC and by the different sports federations. Still, we will have 6 key tasks for Beijing Winter Games. That is completing the construction of non-competition venues and the complementary facilities on schedule, and increasing necessary facilities for various testing, quarantine, and emergencies. This is the first. Second is ensuring quality operation during the games with an efficient management system in place, and improving coordination and emergency handling capabilities between regions and sectors. The third one is advancing competition services by adhering to the principle of simplicity and safety and excellence. So that's the main task for directly connected with the Beijing Winter Games. So Beijing Winter Games is right after the Tokyo Olympic Games. China, as the first country to curb and control the virus, China will do its utmost to support the Tokyo Olympic Games. As for myself, I have the experience of 14 editions of Olympic Winter Games. I always told my colleagues that only in Olympic Games you can share the passion, you can feel the pulse of the athletes. I will share you with everybody with my first games experience in Barcelona. I began my first Olympic Games almost 30 years ago. At that time, it was very rare for a young sports journalist at my age of 26 to cover such a big event. When I got the information, I was assigned to cover the games. I was training in Britain, but I had nothing to know about the Olympic Games. I only know it's a kind of competition. I don't know more about it. But when I stepped into the stadium of the opening ceremony, I was amazed. It was amazing. I still can remember 2 things about the Barcelona Games. It is the slogan, "France for Life," and a huge Olympic flag covering the athletes on the arena of the opening ceremony. That means that all athletes from every corner of the world was unified under the Olympic flag. This is the only moment and the special moment for the games. I cannot forget. I will never forget it. So all the athletes are chasing for their dreams in Olympic Games. I will share with one true story told me by Yang, who now was the World Vice President. In 1994 Lillehammer Olympic Games, Dan Jensen, a US skater, he was in his last chance to chase for his Olympic glory, Olympic medal in the men's 1,000 meter. That's his last chance, last event. He had a gold medal. When this program was broadcasted live to China, Yang, who was a teenager, was watching the TV program, and that inspired her to get involved to speed skating. She won the first gold medal of short track speed skating of the Winter Games for China, and he was LC member and World Vice President. She told me that if there was no Dan Jensen, the example, she will not get into the sport, not get into Olympic movement. So, and many athletes have been training hard for Tokyo Olympic Games. If it was delayed again, or it was even cancelled, I think all the athletes could be very, very disappointed. I think maybe Donna will have a lot of story to share with us. Yeah,
I'm sure she will.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
Jack. Johnny.
Yes, no, I forgot before to speak about, for example, now, how we will get to the top event. In 2 weeks in Italy will be the World Championship of Alpine Ski. But for example, we received the information that before going there, we have to make 2 tests, 10 days and 3 days before the arrival in the place. And after, at the arrival at the place, we will have a 1 test, and after 1 test every 3 days. Regarding somebody was speaking about the vaccine. Now, there was a discussion, why not to compel the athlete to have the vaccine? I think that this is not good because we cannot ask a sacrifice to the fragile people to be put in a corner when a young athlete has the possibility to recover very quickly, and it's better that the vaccine first goes to the fragile people. One day, maybe that in the time of Beijing, many other people will vaccinate it. But even for Tokyo, I think that it's better that we don't count on the vaccine, but on all the other tests and so on. I wanted to tell only this. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. And now she was mentioned a few minutes ago. She competed in 2 Olympics, and having covered 17 Olympic Games, Donna De Varona from the United States. Good morning, Donna. And how can you tell to us from the both sides, as an athlete and as a journalist and producer, what will happen with Tokyo? How to prepare for the Tokyo?
I want to thank everybody for joining, and for Gianni and all of the members of AIPS providing this platform. Communication is so important, and I was so happy to see Lucia here from the IOC, learning a lot about the steps being taken by a very active, dedicated IOC membership. I've been to 27 games, actually.
Sorry.
No, that's all right. I haven't covered them all. I've competed in 2, and a few I went as a delegate from the United States. I don't want to take long because I know there's lots of questions for Lucia and for Jack and for our colleague from Japan. All I can say is that a shout out to the scientists around the world who produced this vaccine. I was watching the news last night, and there's going to be a rapid test where you don't have to wait 3 days to find out. It's a home test. I hope they get on the market. So every day before you go out, you can test yourself to see if you have the virus. I was lucky enough to get my vaccine yesterday, my first one. I think that the most important thing, the message to the Japanese people is, if these games are held, it offers hope and possibility to a world that's really struggling. Our scientists come through, and our human, the possibility of the human beings to come together in a global gathering to celebrate youth is the most important message we can give to the world, seeking common ground. We're so divided and so polarized that in some uncanny way, the virus has brought us together to fight the unseen enemy. And I know after 27 years of going to the games that it is true that we've been able to overcome boycotts, doubt, pessimism. Gianni mentioned and the fact that and we know the games are not popular with the public. I worked on the '84 games with Peter Ubroth, and people left LA like scurrying out of the city because they thought the games were going to be a burden. They thought there was going to be terrorism. Those games helped turn around the movement. So my wish is that we all sacrifice, that we all promote the games in Tokyo. As a 13-year-old in Rome, I saw a different world. I saw a world of diverse people, a community of international athletes and officials that hold out hope for everyone. So when the games happen in Japan, I think Japan will be known as the games that brought back possibility to a global community. And I think that's the best way I can say it. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. The best way you say it is when the games take place in Japan, and thank you for that. And I'm sure that one man is very actually listening for Lucia Montanarella when she told us that photo places will be very, very hard to find in Tokyo. This is Vincent Amalvi, who lives in Hong Kong. Of course, he is French, but he's now head of special operations and photo director for Asia. Vincent, what about this problem? This is a big problem for photographers.
Yeah.
How do you manage that?
Oh, no, just I think it should be, maybe I will surprise you, but I try to be positive, and I think, of course, it will be less position and everybody will understand. But I think on the other hand, this Olympic will be very, very, very interesting because completely different, because completely is completely another view of the Olympics. For the first time, we will cover a kind of event where the show will be inside, outside, around, and for plenty of reasons, it should be, I think, very interesting. After, about your question, I think it should be, of course, a frustration for the photographer, because first is to be able to go to find a position, to find the right position. But I mean, as usual, we will need to be imaginative, to be creative, and to try to make our best to try to show to the rest of the world how this Olympic will be. We are very, very excited to know what will be the rules of the games, because one more time, everything will be different. So as a journalist, I mean, if we try to find the positive way, I think it should be very interesting.
Okay, Vincent, thank you. The man who knows most of all journalism and of course football as his primary sport is Jaap de Groot from Netherlands. Jaap, you covered 10 European football championships. You cover, I think, 8 Olympic Games. And in this moment, in this year, both competitions, both events will be so close one to each other. Is it a problem for a journalist to cover these big events so close, especially in this Corona status?
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, wherever you are in the world. Well, as Lucia already mentioned, we're all in a kind of a crystal project. Every country is now involved in trying to get a bit or piece of solving the problem. And I underwent, for example, the situation in Formula One, where there was a very intense bubble and where nearly journalists were allowed to participate, and the people who colleagues who were allowed to participate hardly got in touch with the athletes. So we already went such a situation. If we look at the situation now, this weekend we have the World Championship of Cyclocross in Belgium. It's an outside event. We have the Tata Steel Chess Tournament, the biggest chess tournament in the world, in Holland, an inside event. We have the final of the Copa America, which is an event within a stadium. We have the Australian Open coming up. We have the Super Bowl coming up with, I understood, 22,000 people attending the event. So what I try to say is that every continent is more or less busy with creating its own test event. And I'm sure that IOC and Tokyo will look very sharp on it. We'll use the blueprints to get a certain percentage of solving that the big problem we're facing also towards the period between 23rd of July and the 8th of August. As we speak, we have in Holland also a bubble. We have 5 weeks that the whole international skaters world is in Holland in 3 different hotels, having an event from a European Championship to World Cups to World Championships from all over the world, 600 people, 300 athletes, and 300 officials and reporters, all in one bubble. Until now, we're now 2 weeks on track. There's been no positive test yet, so that looks good. And also the fact that, except of Japan and some individual athletes who prefer to stay at home, all the countries involved in skating are there. So again, it's a new, and one of the tests we're going to have within the period of February, March, what I understood from Lucia and Shizuka, that will be very crucial for the decision that Japan will be making in March. And answering your question on Euro 2020 towards Tokyo, I think again it will be a major test for what is possible. It could be a major test for what is possible in Japan 1 month later. And as Suzuki already said, you know, it's a matter of being very disciplined, very sharp from the focus of how we can do it.
Thank you. And this is very interesting point of view, but I think that everything is as you said, on time and by the law. The next the next member of our jury, AIPS jury for the AIPS award, that will take place soon, maybe in March, also on Zoom, but we are not talking about that. We are talking about Tokyo Olympics. The next member of AIPS jury is Gary Kemper, also coming from USA. Gary, you were chief of photo sessions in Atlanta. You were chief in Sydney. Is it hard to be a chief, not only because to be a chief, but also to be a chief in this very, very specific terms, very, very specific Corona event?
That's a great question, Jura, and I think that in many ways that presents one of the biggest challenges here. Certainly what we've worked very hard to do over the years, and when I joined an organizing committee, having come from a photographic and news gathering background, I worked for UPI, Reuters. When we came into the business of organizing committees, what the real focus was in trying to open it up and trying to have as many opportunities for accredited photographers as possible, and we've kept that. Certainly, we've tried to keep that theme alive and tried to make it work as well as possible. I work with I'll be working with Lucia during the games, and it's something that we will have to work on. But obviously, with the conditions that are going to be imposed upon us, with fewer numbers and with less access, it's going to be a real challenge to try to make sure that everybody can get what they need. On the very practical side of things, for photographers, particularly, they're going to have to understand that a lot of their positions are going to be far away, and it's going to be very similar to the way sports are being covered now. You're not going to be that close to the action because of the difficulties in keeping separate from the athletes. So photographers are going to have to arrive with some very long lenses. Of course, we'll have Nikon and Sony and Canon will all be there to loan some lenses, but this is going to be a very long glass Olympic Games. And that means lugging a lot of equipment around. It means it's going to be an extra burden, literally, for photographers as they go and visit the venues. On the opposite side, there's always a positive side to that. If we have fewer fans there, we might be able to avail ourselves of different positions. If we can move around the stadiums and shoot from fine positions that really haven't been used before, it might make for a very interesting games in terms of photographically. I am encouraged by having been a jury member on this latest AIPS contests. It was very interesting to see how high the quality was of sports journalism in this past year. We were, I think all of us in the jury were a little taken aback at how much good material that we had to look at. So people do work hard and try to make things happen when they're confronted with obstacles. And I think photographers in particular know that when they've got difficulties ahead of them, they know that they have to just work that much harder and try to make it work.
Thank you, Gary. And after this IOC, Japanese, Chinese, and US point of view, we are going back to Europe to Andreas Schirmer, the man who has reported on 16 summer and 8 winter games. So, Andreas, is it possible that Tokyo will be postponed?
If the Olympics will postponed, no. If I listen to Lucia carefully, I have the feeling no. They have a concept, and it seems so that the Olympics will go on, and we have perhaps different Olympics, but we have Olympics. But there are many things that speaks against it. We have different situations in the world. We have different pandemic situations in the world, and we don't know if all will be fine when 23rd of July the Olympics will open. So I have little doubts about that, but we know the crystal. We can see it forward, and we don't know what happened. I think it will all will be done and do for a good and safety Olympics. I covered Olympics since '84, and I have see many Olympics where there are big problems. We have Atlanta with difficulties with organization. We have Salt Lake City 1 year after 9/11, and other Olympics. They are not in best shape, but they go till the end. My problem is, I will mention that the Olympics are created for the athletes and not for journalists. But I'm a journalist, and I asked for one big problem in Tokyo for us. Normally, when we go to the Olympics, we're coming home because many years that the Olympics will organize with the same principles, with the same designs and all that. And now we come to and a good transportation system, and we have an Olympic village for journalists. But in Tokyo, we have private hotels, and we must go to the arenas and with a public transport, with a metro. I think it's too difficult and big problems for us if the COVID pandemic will hold on. I can't imagine how we can go for 2 weeks or 3 weeks safe from one place to the other. So that's my point of view.
Okay, we hope that everything will be okay. And now the last one of our jury members who wishes to talk and who talk a lot during this Friday mentioned meeting, Steve Wilson from United States, the man who has covered 15 Olympic Games, of course, a lot of major international sports, including football, tennis, golf, athletics, skiing, boxing, basketball, everything else. Steve, what do you think, how it will be for the athletes to be in such an atmosphere, maybe not without journalists, but less journalists than usual?
Okay, thanks for having me on this edition. As far as the athletes are concerned, I'm sure they might be happy not to have the media around, so maybe it's a good thing as far as they're concerned. But yeah, just to follow up on what everyone's been saying. I mean, every day we have new questions about the games. Are they going ahead? Will they be canceled? Or will they not be canceled? The reports in newspapers all the time speculating about it. And you know, it's almost become a silly exercise in one way, because it's impossible at this point to really say anything with absolute certainty or finality. But that's the way things are. And as far as the Olympic Games go, just like everything else, it's really contingent on something that we cannot even predict. It's the trajectory of the pandemic. Who knows what the situation will look like next week or next month or a day after that. So, but what we do know is what the calendar says, and the Olympics are scheduled to begin in Tokyo on July 23rd. And you can't wait until the last minute to make any decisions. So as far as timing goes, I think it's been discussed earlier that probably the key crunch time will be in March, late March, or maybe even early April. And that's about 3 months before the opening ceremony. And as it was pointed out, it was last year, just before the scheduled opening of the torch relay, that the decision was made to postpone. And March 25th is the scheduled date for this year's torch relay. So keep an eye out for those dates. But you know, to be an optimist and to go along with what the trends seem to be, we should expect that the games are going to go ahead in some form or the other. And really, it's, you know, there's a lot of reasons for that. And you know, the political and financial stakes are just so high for the games not to take place. We know some of the reasons for that. I won't go into them in details, but just think of the 8 years that Tokyo and Japan has been preparing for this event, the billions of dollars that have been put into the effort, the manpower, the resources. It's something that you wouldn't want to just throw away at this point. I think it's something that Japan really, it was a national priority for Japan. It remains a national priority. And despite the pessimism that is being shown in some of the polls, I think Japan would really like to pull this off and show that they could do it in this time of crisis, and how important it would be for the world for that to happen. So, and the situation really is different from a year ago, as Lucia and others pointed out. I mean, a year ago, we were just getting to grips with the pandemic. We didn't know really what it was, where it was going, how bad it would be. And now here we are a year later, we have vaccines being developed, vaccinations being administered in different countries. We know the scientists and the doctors know what the virus is. They have a lot more information about how to curb it. And sports has resumed in quite a strong way all across the world. And sports events are know how to combat the virus. They know what protocols to use. Athletes are getting used to being tested. So we have a lot more information to go on and a lot more ways to plan for holding sports events, and that's a good thing for Tokyo, a good thing for the IOC to have all that knowledge. So we're assuming that the games will go ahead, but as Lucia and others again pointed out, it just won't be the games that we're used to. These will be different games. That will not be the full-blown extravaganza that we've come to love and enjoy. We already know some of the plans. The athletes will be asked to come, just 5 days before their event and to leave within 2 days of competing. There'll be fewer athletes at the opening ceremony. There'll be social distancing. There'll be testing and other protocols to follow. So it will be a lot different, and we'll just have to put up with the differences. But I think just one more thing. I think the biggest question mark we have hasn't been addressed yet, and then maybe will come up later, is that over spectators. Will fans be allowed? How many? Will fans from abroad be allowed? I don't think any final decisions have been made on that, but it does seem more and more unlikely that spectators from overseas will be allowed into Japan for the games. We'll see. And then finally, the Olympic Games have survived for 125 years now. It's been survived through world wars, boycotts, financial crises, doping scandals, corruption scandals. So these games will be different. They may be difficult, in fact, for media and others, but it would still be the first global event to be held since the pandemic. And it really will give an important symbol of hope and inspiration to the whole world. So thanks for having me.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for your optimism, because I saw a small, but anyway, a little smile on Shinzuka and Lucia's mouth, because you were so optimistic about these games. And now, dear colleagues, 279 of us are on this Zoom. You can send your questions if you want to raise your questions. Please send it an email to the President Office at AIPSmedia.com. But before we let you ask your questions, I would like to hear Lucia, because a lot of things rise up in this last 1 hour, and Lucia, I'm sure that you can tell something about it.
Yeah, thank you, Jura. Indeed, I felt that I had a few other things that I want to say. One is actually a message for the diaries, and I'm following on what Jaap said and Steve said on the timelines. 19th of February is the deadline for the press accreditation confirmation. So all of you that are accredited, please make sure that you respect that deadline, because I think it goes without saying that you are helping not only us, but you're helping the old media by confirming your accreditation, because the final number of media that will decide to travel to Tokyo, it's a key element for us to try and make our best with our planning and with the restrictions that we have and with the shortage of capacities that we have in the venue. So 19th of February, put it big in your diary, because that's a deadline that is very important for us. Having said that, I mean, it's very interesting to hear all the different perspectives. I'm glad that I've heard that my opening remarks have instilled certainty on the fact that the games will go ahead. And this is, I'm glad that it transpired. I can tell you really that every day that I wake up, there's never a if, there is only a how, and that's that's been guiding me for the last few months. I don't really have anything to add. I think that I've passed the message that for me is key, is to understand that while we're doing everything we can to have the widest media coverage we can at these games, there will be some restrictions, and some of them will be frustrating, and there will be days where maybe people will not be able to go where they want, and there will be days where maybe photographers will not be able to go in the venue they want to shoot from. And the only thing that I can say is that Tokyo 2020 and IOC Media Operation, we are really trying to make our best to allow for the widest number of people and the widest number of organizations, but be prepared. It's going to be challenging. So I think that's I would say is the last message, that I don't want it to be a negative message. I want it to be a message of really conveying that despite all our work, it's not easy to deliver a safe environment if we don't stick with the numbers that we have in the venue.
Thank you, Lucia. I'm sure that everything will be the best possible in the moment in Tokyo, also to Shinsuke. But Johnny, you had a question, or you spotted something, someone? Microphone, please, microphone.
First of all, very quick, I think that what our colleague Schirmer from Germany has said, it shows how effective it is sometimes when there is the second wave. For example, in the last spring in Italy, we were very bad psychologically in the moment in which Germany was better organized than us in some situation. Now they are facing something similar to what we have had. And so psychologically, it works on us. Now we are hoping a little bit better, but even if we have a lot of problems. But I have seen in all our group, an old friend of us that now is working very hard for the organizing committee of Tokyo, Masa Takaya. How are you, Masa? So,
first of all, thank you very much for such an encouraging messages delivered by every one of you. Really, really encouraging. I'm sure I will deliver your messages to my colleagues straight away. I echo with everyone. We are so committed to delivering the games this year. I think in order to lead the game's success, we'd like to ask for your cooperation within the spirit of unity and solidarity. When the game is taking place in Tokyo this summer, we'll be able to feel a sense of unity, sense of solidarity that we have never felt before. And you have the power and role to convey that feeling to everyone around the world. And then to achieve so, we will be absolutely focused on delivering the games this summer. Thank you.
Masa, you have to tell what is your position in the organization so people will know who you are.
Apologies. My name is Masa Takaya. I'm serving as a spokesperson for Tokyo 2020.
Very high position. Thank you, Masa. And now we are going to your questions. First, who sent the question is my good friend, Pets Lahur, President of Sport Journalists of Luxembourg. Pets, your question to whom? And please be short. Pets Lahur from Luxembourg. Pets,
hello.
Oh, yes, you are with us. Thank you.
Hello?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
It's open.
Tu m'entends?
Yeah, you can talk.
I have a question to Lucia. What measures will be taken in the press center if one or more journalists have been tested positively? And what happens at the journalists' hotels?
Lucia?
I'm afraid that I have to ask you to wait till the 4th of February when the playbook is released, because all of the guidelines are included in the playbook for press, and that's it's just a couple of weeks that you have to wait until. So
it's only 10 days.
It's only 10 days. So.
Okay, Pets, thank you very much. The next one is coming from Venezuela, Luis Enrique Castellanos, young reporter, and he had a question for whom? Luis Enrique Castellanos from Venezuela.
Hello, my question is for Mr. Kobayashi. What kind of, I don't know, wait a minute. The process of the reduce the economic loss. What would the practice of the organization committee has planned?
Yeah, this is not our problem.
Yeah.
You can make the question in Spanish, so it is translated directly.
Is it okay with you, Luis?
Sí, principalmente, pero no sé si la puedo hacer, ya que Yanni dijo que no era el tema.
Yes.
Shinzuke, have you heard it? Please open the microphone.
Sí,
Please open.
¿qué propuestas ha hecho el comité organizador para reducir las pérdidas económicas a raíz de toda la pandemia?
Shinzuke?
Economic losses. Well, maybe I'm not the right person to answer, but well, what it said is loss incurred by canceling the games is much bigger than loss incurred by, for example, not having the spectators or reducing the size or the restricting the games from what it used to be. So economic loss, well, there are, of course, a lot of expenditure already because of the postponement. Extra 1 year is costing a lot of money, and also all the countermeasures for the pandemic is also costing money. In that sense, I think the government, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, the organizing committee is kind of just going for the games rather than thinking about the losses and the profits. So it's more becoming a fight for the pride kind of things, is in my opinion, what I see.
Okay, thank you,
Maybe
Shinzuke.
Masa has something more to add.
Masa, do you have something to add, maybe? No. Okay, Masa doesn't have anything to add. The next question is from Walter Saltos, President of Sport Journalists of Ecuador. Walter Saltos, please, your question. Walter, are you here?
Go next.
No. The next one is our good friend, Sid Colley from Great Britain to Lucia. Sid, good afternoon.
Second. Afternoon, Yura, can you hear me?
Yes, it's okay now.
Fantastic. Just a quick question for you, Lucia. Thanks ever so much for your insights. I want to ask you about something you mentioned, which was reduced press positions both in the mixed zone as well as the press conference area. Something that's been spoken about a lot is remote media ops. So
Estoy listo, por favor. Ecuador.
Okay, later, Ecuador, later. Sid is now on turn.
Sorry, so I was just going to say, Lucia, so remote media ops has been spoken about a lot. The US Open Golf, for example, went from 450 positions to only 50 positions, and they also had a virtual media hub. In England, the Premier League press conferences are all being done via remote media ops. Some people love it. Some people think it's not, it's not satisfactory. I just want to get your broad opinion on remote media ops, and do you think it'll play a role beyond the Tokyo Games and the pandemic?
Hi, Sid. Thanks very much for the question. So there are some opportunities for remote access to materials at the Olympic Games. We have all of the medal rounds, press conferences are live streamed on Info. And Info, as you know, is a system that can be accessed from remote, also from outside the Olympic venues. Also, press conference at the main press center are going to be live streamed on Info. And then obviously there is the Olympic Information Service that provides content, and we're also putting in place a sort of an interactive tools with accredited media that might ask for interviews or quotes on specific athletes that maybe are not normally interviewed. What I believe is that, however, we need to find the right balance on access to content from remote, because I think that if the same content is provided to people who make the effort to come to Tokyo, to the ones who are staying home, I don't think it's fair for the people who invest in money and troubles and frustration to actually travel to Tokyo. So we're trying to balance that. And at this stage, we have excluded the idea of having what is now very trendy in sport, which is a virtual media accreditation. And at the moment, we are excluding that for the reasons that I've just said. The other news that I would like to share with you, and I'm actually very happy that I'm sharing this for the very first time, because it's just been finalized yesterday, is that at the Tokyo Games, the video content of the live stream press conferences on Info, once they are no longer live, they are available for download for use by the accredited press. So you'll be able to download that video and reuse it in your media reports, which is a very new thing. It's the very first time that happens, and the news access rules are being published this week. And you'll and this is, I think, it's a very much a turning point in providing more content to the media. And so it's very good news. And that's not only for non-rights holding broadcasters, but it's for all accredited media, and it can be used on the internet as well.
Perfect. Lucia, Sid, I hope that you are satisfied. Now we are going back to Ecuador. Walter, are you with us? Walter, I see just a spot of you. No, he's not with us. Mohamed El Garabawi from Qatar, also to Lucia. Mohamed from Qatar.
Okay, my question is that if everyone have the vaccine is available for all the athletes and all the media, members of the media.
Please, can you repeat it, because we didn't hear the start of your question.
Okay. Sorry. My question was, if the vaccine will be available to all the athletes and all members of the media, would it be possible to revise your secure measures and ease it before the Olympic Games?
I'm not able to answer this question, because reality is that we made a decision with Tokyo 2020 that we will go ahead and plan these games without taking into consideration the vaccine. And this is what we're doing. So at this moment, the vaccine doesn't come into play in any of our planning. And that's the way we're going ahead. So we would need another crystal ball to tell you something different. But for the moment, this is what we're doing. We are not considering the vaccine at all.
Okay.
Thank you. Especially because we have to explain that for the vaccine in every country, it depends also by the size of the country. To fulfill all the duty to vaccinate everybody, for example, Japan with 120 million people, or Italy with 60 million people, USA, China, and so on, and also the small one, because in Qatar it's possible to organize the vaccine for everybody, but in the other country it's very difficult. And after, as I told you, I think that in this way, we must respect the situation that first of all, we must vaccinate the fragile people, yet that they can wait as we can wait. Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Lucia, for this part of the question. Now we are going to Lebanon. Vadat Hashihu is with us. Vadat, what is your question? Vadat from Lebanon.
Hello.
Yes, thank you.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome.
Hi, Mr. Gianni. Hi, Lucia. My question is about the guarantee. We are freelance and we arrange now hotel and flight, and I'm not sure what the situation in Tokyo once we go for any news update COVID. This is a problem because every month we have a new generation and new rules. It's clear, my question?
Yes, it is clear. Lucia will answer you.
Thank you.
I mean, unfortunately, you're not going to like my answer. I mean, it's totally your decision whether you are, risking your planning to come to Tokyo or not. There's nothing that really we can do on your behalf. The only thing I can do is to be as honest as possible today in telling you what is likely that you have to expect, and it will be your decision whether it's worth investing in this trip or not. There's nothing else, I'm afraid, that I can suggest.
Yes, but very fair and open answer. Thank you very much, Lucia. Thank you for that. Our next partner and our next colleague is Nicolas Pani from Argentina, also to Lucia. Nicolas from Argentina.
Hola a todos, ¿cómo les va? Es un gusto participar acá de la reunión, un honor para mí. Sí, mi pregunta para Lucía, ¿cómo es trabajar en el día a día allí en el Comité Olímpico, sabiendo que más allá de que ahora en este momento se sabe cuándo van a arrancar los Juegos, en su momento no, y todo lógicamente que se estaba llevando por cómo iba la pandemia? Porque me parece que si algo nos enseñó la pandemia es que era muy complicado proyectar a 2 semanas o hasta incluso un mes. Entonces, ¿cómo era ese trabajo del día a día, conociendo que no había una situación clara con respecto al futuro? Gracias.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. How is my daily work? It's a good learning every day, and I think that if I want to look in a positive way, it's an extremely fascinating situation because I think we're all learning day by day things that I would have not thought that I would have to deal with. I would have never thought about having to deal with putting a booking system to go into the venues and for the reasons why we're doing it, or to have to write a document regarding sanitary testing of my colleagues. So reality is that it's quite a learning curve for all of us, and it is challenging. And there are days where we are frustrated because things get complicated. And there are days where we actually, get on with it. But I am sure that on the 23rd of July, there will be tears, and there will be also some good drinks, because it's been a long and challenging way up to that opening ceremony. And I'm sure that Maza will be crying with me as well.
Lucia, thank you for this. Now take a rest a little bit, because the next question is for Gianni Merla. It's Raul Salguero from Mexico for Gianni Merla. Raul, we are listening to you. Raul? No, Raul is not with us, unfortunately. So we are going further. Olala Cernuda from World Triathlon, Head of Communications. Again for Lucia, of course. Olala.
Hi, thank you very much, everyone.
We would like to see you if it's possible.
Yes. Sorry. Sorry, I think Lucia answered kind of a similar question, kind of. My question was, and I completely understand that it will be challenging and difficult to organize and to see how you guys will organize the positions that will be reduced in terms of numbers. The question is, how will you work to prioritize those photo positions and those positions on the mix zone to just guarantee that, in my case, and I'm talking from an IF perspective, like our sports will be covered so that is the IOC going to consider, or the local organizers are going to consider, the IF photo positions or photographers or media representatives as part of a pool, kind of, or how is that going to work in terms of assuring that we can get good coverage of all the sports?
Thank you, Lala. Lucia? Oh, your microphone, Lucia, sorry, your microphone. Please open Lucia's mic. Yes, you are open now.
It's not me, so I'm not able to unmute by myself. So
yes, I know.
So that's the problem. Raoul, again, patience, and at the right time you will learn what the priorities are. We are planning with Tokyo 2020 press operation to have a call with the international federations at the end of February, and that's where we will discuss. But you need to be patient.
Thank you, Lucia. Thank you, Lala. The next one is Ricardo Ribola from El Salvador. Ricardo from El Salvador, what is your question and to whom?
Hola.
Hola.
Hola, mucho gusto. Saludos desde San Salvador, El Salvador. Para Lucía, mi pregunta es, El Salvador siempre lleva pocos atletas para las Olimpiadas y los medios de comunicación de aquí solo se dedican a la cobertura de estos pocos atletas que van. ¿Cómo sería la cobertura, según lo que he escuchado, para darle cobertura cuando son a lo mucho 10 atletas? Y está diciendo que van a dar poca acceso a los periodistas que vayan a dar para diferentes deportes. Entonces quisiera que podría explicar cómo va a ser esa dinámica si me mandaran a mí, cómo tengo que hacer para dar esa cobertura para estos deportes. Solo porque la movilidad va a estar restringida. Entonces quisiera que lo explicara un poco más, nada más. Gracias.
Okay, now we will open. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the media from the countries of the competing athletes will be given priority. I'm not so sure how familiar you are with the high demand events system, where there are priorities and given to NOC's press attaches of a certain country to redistribute the tickets. We will follow a similar priority, and we will work with the press attaches of the different countries to prioritize access to certain venues.
As usual.
As usual.
Thank you very much, Lucia. Thank you, Ricardo. Now we are going to Wojciech Nowakowski. Wojciech Nowakowski, a question to whom?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. My question is mostly to Jack Zhu from China. I wonder what does you think about the fact that the Beijing Games will be held in quite far places. I mean, the Beijing and Zhangjiakou. And would it be easier for China to organize these games because of those two clusters? And I'd like to also know the Shinsuke Kobayashi's opinion on that. Would it be easier for Beijing or for Tokyo to organize the games in one place, have everything in control, or in two places with quite big social distance between those two clusters?
Wojciech, sorry, I didn't understand. Whom did you ask first before Shinsuke?
Mostly Jack Zhu, but also would like to know the Shinsuke
Jack.
Kobayashi's
Okay.
opinion.
Jack and Shinsuke. Jack Zhu? Jack, are you still with us? No, I'm afraid that Jack is not longer with us, but Shinsuke is here. Shinsuke?
No, he is there, Joram.
Oh, he's here.
He's coming.
Jack? Jack can see you, can't hear you. Maybe to open the microphone.
The microphone is open.
Thank you, Stephanie. Okay, Shinsuke, can you answer your part of...
Yes. The organization of the games. You mean, I think the question was the comparison between the Winter Games and Summer Games, Beijing and Tokyo. I'm not in the position to organize the game. It's work of the organizing committee, but I can guess that while Beijing has two big clusters, Zhangjiakou and Beijing, and that will pose them some challenge. But I think the number of sports being played in Summer Games is 5 times more than Winter Games, and the number of athletes participating is far more. So I would say probably it's hard for Tokyo Games to be held in terms of number of athletes and number of participating countries and regions. That's my view.
Thank you, Shinsuke. Jack, are you with us? No, something happened with Jack. Thank you very much, Wojciech. I hope that you get your answer. And now we are going to Italy. Francesco Gottardi. Francesco, welcome.
Hi, everybody. I have a question for, can you hear me, right?
Poor, but we can hear you, yes.
Okay, so better right now?
Yes.
Okay. So I have a question for...
Louder.
Okay, I have a question for Lucia Montanarella. It's about, let's say, an issue inside the issue, because the paradox here in Italy right now is in the very last hours is not really about will Tokyo 2020 take place, but if it will take place, as all we hope, will be Italy participate and be part of that. And there's been a decree from the government today, and it would be enough to prevent the Italian committee suspension from the IOC, and if not, how to reach this goal. Thank you very much.
I'm afraid you've asked the wrong person. I look after press operations. I don't look after any other matter. So I'm sorry, I'm not the right IOC person to answer this.
Yes.
So sorry, Francesco, but I think that the situation was created bigger than what it is. I think that even to tell to the government that it was time only to make a decree, because what they did today will clarify everything. So I don't think that the IOC will send the Italian team without flag and without him, because maybe that after you can, Donna can explain that USA is in a worse position than us and so on. And after, you know, usually some what we can tell the storm in a cup of tea. I think that I'm very glad that was signed this decree. So now everybody will be happy, and there will be all the Italian team. We hope in Tokyo, if we will go on, we'll go on with the full team, the flag, and everything. And we hope also with some medal.
Thank you, Gianni. Thank you, Francesco, and thank you, Lucia. Now we are going further. James Mwamba from Kenya. James, your question, please. No, James?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Thank you, James. We want to see you if it's possible.
Yeah. My name is James Mwamba. Thanks for the opportunity to ask the question. I wanted to point out that because the games will feature the normal testing for doping among athletes, and this also combines with the test for COVID-19. I am wondering whether this will create additional pressure and emotional burden on the athletes. I want to direct this to Lucia.
I don't think she can answer that. maybe Donna can answer that, but not Lucia. Donna, can you answer that? Donna, are you with us? No, Donna is.
But nobody of us
Yes.
can speak about this matter, because first, I think that the medical commission of IOC and also all the medical commission of every team are discussing this point. And as journalists, we have to take note of what they will tell us, because for now we cannot say, and especially the press operation has nothing to do. It may be that in Tokyo, but I'm not sure. I have no news that there will be also doping control for the journalists.
No, don't do it. Thank you, Johnny. And now we are going to our EC member, AIPS EC member from Brazil, Vicente Datoli. Vicente, welcome. What is your question? And to whom, of course? Vicente. No, Vicente. Are you with us? Unfortunately not. So we are going to Iran. Afsun Hazrati. Afsun. No Afsun. Problems with techniques. Unfortunately, sorry for that. Okay, Rick Lamoral from Belgium, our good known member. Rick, welcome. Rick, I saw you. I don't have much luck with the three last people.
If you want, I have the question from Rick Lamoral, which is
yes.
Athletes who do not want to outbreak their bubble refuse to appear on press conferences. How much freedom to isolate does athlete have? So if the athletes doesn't want to participate to the press conferences because they are afraid, I think to Lucia.
To Lucia, okay. Lucia? No.
Nothing changes from the past. I mean, even in the past, if an athlete didn't want to come to the press conference, there's really no way that we can force that athlete. So it will be totally up to the NOCs and the press attachés to decide what the athletes do and whether they attend press conferences or not.
But good question and good answer. Thank you, Lucia. Sergio Villacencio from Peru. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong, but Sergio Villacencio from Peru. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 10 more minutes for our question and answers. So, yes, Sergio, welcome.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Quería hacer una consulta, más que nada por el tema de si ustedes como organización están planeando, no sé si ya lo dijeron, que entré medio avanzada en la conferencia, están planeando tener un pool de tanto de fotógrafos como de periodistas que ustedes seleccionen para brindar ese material a todos los medios del mundo, o es que se va a hacer una selección por prensa que postule, digamos, a la cobertura de Tokio 2020, ¿no? Esa era mi consulta, cómo sería la mecánica, ¿no?
I think Lucia already answered that there will be a possibility to see the press conferences after the matches, after the events. So yes, it will be possible, but you will see it in February 10th in the special edition of IOC book for the press. So thank you for your question, but we already answered it. After Sergio is Zagros Sadi. He would like to answer in, he would like to ask in Arabic. Of course, it is possible because we have interpretify, so we will put our ears. And Zagros, please, your
صباح
question.
الخير ومساء الخير لكل الأعضاء والسيد الرئيس جاني مارلو. أود أن أسأل كصحفي رياضي من إقليم كردستان العراق. أولا كيف نعمل كصحفيين الرياضيين أن نفعل لأجل استمرار وتطوير لأجل تطبيق وتطبيق لجنة أولمبياد 2021. هذا السؤال الأول. السؤال الثاني، بدأ عمري أني 51 سنة كصحفي رياضي وعندي تأليفات. السيد جاني مارلو يعرف ذلك. لم نشارك في أي أولمبياد منذ الآن. كيف نشارك احنا صحفيين رياضيين من إقليم كردستان إلى أولمبياد طوكيو 2021؟ وأكون أشكركم شاكر لجوابي. جوابي للسيد سازوكي مدير أولمبياد طوكيو والسيد جاني مارلو رئيس AIPS. شكرا جزيلا.
Thank you, Zagros. It is not a real team, but Johnny will answer you very quickly. Johnny?
First of all, I have not understood the first question.
About
repeat the first question.
Yes. Can you repeat the first question, Zagros?
The first question.
Yes, the first question, please, to Johnny.
إلى جان. السؤال الأول إلى جان. تفضل.
Please open your microphone, Zagros. We don't hear you.
الميكروفون.
Zagros Nanakali, Iraq, please open the microphone. No. Okay, now you can speak. You can speak, Zagros. Now.
كصحفيين رياضيين احنا في اقليم كردستان ككردي كيف نعمل لاجل تطوير وتطبيق اولمبياد 2021 كصحفيين رياضيين في اقليم كردستان لاننا سيجيني مارلو يعرف الشيء يعرف احنا ليس لدينا اي دعوات رسميه من قبل الاولمبياد السابقه ولم نشارك في اي اولمبياد. احنا شعب اكثر من 40 مليون نسمه وفي كل انحاء العالم خاصه في العراق وايران وسوريا ودول الجوار.
Thank you, Zagros. We understand it, and Johnny will answer. Thank you, Zagros. Johnny will answer very quickly. Thank you very much.
First of all, the accreditation to the Olympic Games are going in this occasion for the Olympic Games through the National Olympic Committee. And in this case, because you live in Kurdistan, you are an Iraqi, and now you have very good, you have reopened the relation with the Iraqi Association. After you have to speak with the National Committee of Iraq because they are entitled to give the credential. I think that this is important, the first step, because we cannot think about the Kurdistan that is in Syria and so on. For us, the National Association are in the part that you are living. And regarding Iraq, you have to speak with the National Olympic Committee because the IOC is giving the credential to the National Olympic Committee.
Okay, thank you, Johnny. Thank you, Zagros. And now we are going to John Walker from Netherlands. John, welcome to our humble Zoom panel. John from Netherlands.
Try.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
Welcome. Oh, that's great. Well, welcome everybody. Nice to hear from you. I have a question to Lucia Montanarella. Yeah. My newspaper is giving back one of their 4 press accreditations, let's say 25% of the credentials we normally receive. Has Lucia and her IOC any idea of the diminishment of credentials, the E-accreditation for the Olympic Games of Tokyo? Thank you.
Thank you, John. Lucia? Yes, we are waiting for your microphone, I know. Sorry for that. You will get it very soon. Now you'll get it.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks, John. And I just wish that everybody was like you, that they will let us know that they are not using an accreditation. So I do not have an idea right now because unfortunately what we've seen is that people are waiting to understand how the games shape up before they make a decision, which is a bit of a catch-22 situation because we need to know who is not coming because we can better shape the plans if we know the exact number of people coming. And you guys are not telling us because you are waiting to know how the games are. So that's why I'm saying 19th of February, the deadline for press accreditation is a very important one for us because we need to see who decides not to travel to Tokyo, which will be totally understandable. But if you're not intending to use your press accreditation, please let us know because it's very critical. So thanks, John.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Lucia, for this very important message. And now we are going to the end. I would like to ask Lucia, do you have to add anything? Maybe nobody asked you, but you want to say it now because we are at the end of our small panel, only 300 people.
No, I just would like to say that I'm looking forward to meeting everyone in Tokyo. I just want you to know that the games will be different and there will be restrictions and you need to be prepared for them. And if you feel that once you've read your playbook and you feel that those restrictions are not in line with your expectation, just watch the games on TV from home.
Yes, it is easier. Thank you, Lucia. Thank you for being with us. I hope that you will join us maybe in some other Zoom about Tokyo and about IOC. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Shinzuke, maybe you have some final words from Japan about the games before we finish this. Shinzuke Kobayashi. Please open the microphone for Shinzuke. Yes, Shinzuke?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. But I was not really prepared. And even though I spoke rather pessimistic atmosphere that is surrounding the country, but as a journalist covering Olympics for the past few decades, I am hoping the games will go on. And I think we are kind of witnessing a history. It is going to be a very different new Olympic Games. And I'm quite sure we'll get frustrated and complaints will, come to wants to complain, but probably we have to think that we are experiencing something new, and we are witnessing very different Olympic Games. So hopefully we'll see everybody in Tokyo, and afterward we'll complain with some drinks.
Thank you very much, Shinzuke. Very nice words, very optimistic. Gianni, your final word.
Yes, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank the staff that has done this possible. And I think that I prefer to be a little bit optimistic, even if the situation in Japan, as all around the world, is very negative for now. But as I told you before, the young generation of people all around the world, they want to go out from this situation. It's very difficult to stop now the young people to stay at home, to keep the distance, to think so. And I think that we have to find a solution to show them that if they follow some rules, it's possible to go back step by step to the normal life. Even for us journalists, Lucia has told us that will be different. The most important thing for us is that after, when there will be the next organization, the situation will go back to a better situation for us, that not the federation will try to say, in Tokyo has worked very well, why to change? And so to leave us out of the door. So I guess that in this moment, we have found the full cooperation of IOC to our request. And we will continue to be in contact with them to find the best solution for them and also for us, because we are on the same boat. And both we are fighting against a situation that was never thought before. I think that this era of coronavirus will be in the history book one day, and people will think how, will wonder how we have felt in this period, no? Because it's very strange. Everybody of us has a different experience in his country. You know, Yura has had the coronavirus and the earthquake in the same time.
Several earthquakes.
So there are so many different situations, and some other will come also, that what we have not to lose is our nerves, and it's important also to continue to speak, because only speaking we can find a solution. Only speaking we can also tell to the people some opinion that can be important to change some ideas that we have that are coming from a different experience. I'm very glad of what it happened today, and very thank my colleague of the jury of AIPS award that has had this brilliant idea to be together today. And in the future, if you like, we will try to be again together with discussing about other matter, because, for example, now the world is blowing with many other things. And sometimes also you can send us some ideas, and we will be very happy to implement, because the main goal of our association is to be together and to work together.
Thank you, Gianni.
Now it's 4 o'clock. Perfect.
Yes.
We were perfect in timing.
Of course, you have a good moderator.
Yes.
Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you, ladies. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, young reporters. Thank you, old reporters. Thank you, colleagues. And see you again on this AIPS Zoom. Thank you very much. Bye.
Ciao.